What's up, y'all? So this week I really wanted to incorporate rice into my burger. So I've done rice a few other times in the burger, but I want to take it a little bit a step further this week and show how we can use rice a few different ways in making veggie burgers. I looked in my pantry, I had some red beans, and if you were an early follower of Bloom, an early eater with Bloom, you know that my red bean and sweet potato burger was the very first burger that I served. I didn't want to make that because, I still want to invent a new burger every single week. So I decided to use the Cajun inspiration and make a red bean and rice burger. This week for one of my buns, we're going to test out using rice grits to make kind of a polenta kind of cake, but we're going to make it with rice grits. Use that as probably an open face kind of slider situation with our red bean and rice patty, along with some delicious classic toppings, and we'll see how it all turns out. So rice grits, what are rice grits? I got a chance to tour the Harvest Grain Mill's facility, and when they mill their rice, when they take the full grain, remove the bran, and clean it up and everything, it has to go through a lot of machinery in order to get to that final rice that you buy in a bag from them. And one of the byproducts of that milling process, going through all of that equipment, there's shearing forces, there are separation forces, and through that some of these fragile rice grains will get damaged. So what do you do with those rice grains? Do you throw them away? Do you compost them? Or do you sell them as a business, right? So that's what Harvest Grain Mills does. They take those small rice, those broken rice grains, and they sell rice grits. So I'm really excited to cook with these rice grits. I've made them a few times, and they're really creamy, really delicious, and this is what they look like. So again, it's that broken rice, almost powdery, so you're gonna get all those starches forming a delicious cream, and you can buy those at Urban Harvest Farmers Market. So I got some olive oil on medium-high heat so I can saute this shallot. And that cooks down pretty fast, so I have some sage and thyme here. I'm going to go ahead and add in half a cup of rice grits. And we're just going to toast them for a hot second. And if you can see my other pot over here starting to steam, I have some vegetable broth. And because this is hot, I just wanted to start cooking these grits immediately right after they were toasted. Now let's add that in. And I had that pot on high heat, so that was a pretty nice deglaze, and it smells delicious already. Now that that's boiling, I'm gonna go ahead and put this down to a simmer on low, cover that up, and we're just gonna make sure to stir that every 2 or 3 minutes so that grits aren't sticking to the bottom of that pot. I've stirred it a few times and opened the pot, and now my grits aren't sticking to the bottom. So I'm gonna add a little bit more water after this heats up, because I don't want this too brothy, and I want these to continue to absorb water and cook down so they'll soften up. We'll be back after that. All right, our rice grits are done. They are a little bit salty, they're herby, they're creamy, a little bit of pepper. They taste delicious. And now it's time to cool these off so that we can get them to the point where we can cut some circles out and fry those for our slider. You know what? Let me get this spoon because these are nice and creamy. So I'm just pouring these into glass, and I chose a size that I thought would give me a thickness of about 1/2 inch. And I'm just gonna spread that out. You could add a little bit of cheese to this if that's your thing. A little bit of butter, a little bit of cream cheese, Parmesan, but we're keeping it vegan today. I'm gonna get this in the fridge for about an hour until it sets and we can cut out some cakes to fry. As our rice grits cool down, we have everything here ready to make our Cajun-inspired red bean burger. I'm gonna start with my bell pepper, and I'll add my parsley as well. So we got a little salad going on right there. About 3 cups of cooked beans, a cup dry. All right, now to finish our wet mix, I used about half the amount of rice as I did beans, coconut rice. I cut 3/4 of an onion and I used the rest to make quick pickled onions, which we'll put on top of the slider at the end. So in go our sauteed onions. So I'll start with a good amount of garlic powder. I did not use any garlic yet, so not gonna be shy with that. Salt for the veggies, for the beans, a good amount of black pepper, thyme, oregano, pepper flakes. Now I'll mix and get a taste. Okay, with our wet mix done, and disclaimer, I added a touch of cayenne pepper because it just set the flavors over the top. 2 different levels, 2 different sources of spice, just delicious. So our final rice component is something I've been using pretty much every week to hold our burgers together, is Harvest Grain Mills brown rice flour. So we're gonna have rice grits on the bottom, rice in the patty, rice flour holding the patty together. We're really not wasting any rice this week. So I'm gonna add this in until I get a nice ball that's holding together, and then after our grits are done, we're ready for the grill. All right, so I let these cool. It actually took about 2 hours, and I formed 2 slider patties with my red bean burger as well. I did want to mention that I just used the top of a mason jar, a small mason jar, to make these from my pan of rice grits. So yeah, these are pretty fragile. I need these to fry to hold together. So what I'm just gonna do here is sprinkle with rice flour. I'm gonna scrape with my spatula, kind of knock that off. And that looks like it's done the job for the first side, and I'll just do the same thing on this side. And I'll knock these off right before I get these into the oil. My oil is now somewhere between 325 and 350. So I'm going to very, very, very gently drop that in on the first side and make a little room for the second one. And number 2. These smell fantastic, and I've put some olive oil on the top to get ready for the flip. And wow, that looks so meaty. Looks really good, y'all. After about 7 or 8 minutes, these are getting to a delicious looking golden brown that I was looking for. Those burger patties were pretty thick, so I ended up putting them in the oven. All right, now it's time to assemble and eat, my favorite part. So let's start off with these rice cakes. They're nice and fluffy rice grit cakes. Here I have some lightly salted avocado because I season everything. I think I'll put a touch of pepper on there too. Cajun kidney bean patties. If you ask me, this looks a little bit like meat, and I really don't care if my burgers look like meat or not because I know that they're delicious, and that's really not what I'm going for. Like, vegetables taste better than meat anyway. But these look a little bit like meat, so maybe my meat eaters will appreciate this a little bit. I made an aioli here. I've been making a lot of aiolis recently. I don't know why. We got veganaise, we got Meyer lemon, parsley, oregano, thyme, and a little bit of cayenne. And here I did a quick pickle on these onions. So I just sliced some red onion, hit it with some vinegar, water, salt, and sugar. You know, just for presentation's sake, I'm gonna top this with a little bit of parsley. And that is the newest addition to the Bloom slider menu, the Cajun red bean and rice grit slider. There we go. So delicious looking. I'll let you know if it's delicious now. So I hope you got to hear that crunch when I bit into that rice cake. It was so fluffy and delicious, very light. I can taste a little bit of the sage and the thyme that I put in those grits, so delicious level 1. Avocado is a classic. It cools out some of the cayenne and the aioli, and that burger has a good kick with the levels of flavor with the crushed pepper and the cayenne. The pickles are delicious. I always love that little hit of acid, and overall, just a nice, delicious bite. Let me try again. Man, I'm really happy with how these rice grit cakes came out. I probably won't do it in the future on with a burger on top because it's really bold and the burger is actually a little thicker than the cake itself. But those cakes can be a vehicle for some amazing flavors. So, we incorporated rice flour, rice grits, and rice. So all throughout that milling process, we, in a sustainable way, utilized that entire rice grain, didn't put it to waste, and we showed it off here in this dish. And I am very happy with how this turned out, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. Peace.